Welcome to Microsoft Build 2017. I'm going to talk to you about Java on Azure. Let's start with how it looks on Azure. Java is the second popular language on Azure. Azure is the only Oracle certified cloud platform for Java apps. Microsoft also uses Java to power Azure HD Insight, particularly Spark, Hive, MapReduce, all those packages for enabling HD Insight. And Azure Search also uses Elasticsearch. You might be surprised, 1 in 3 virtual machines running on Azure are Linux virtual machines. If you look at the Java doc views on Azure, they are second after .NET. So it's a very popular language on Azure. Now, Azure is an open platform. You can use your operating system, your frameworks, data sources of your choice, right? And Microsoft is committed to Java and Linux and has been supporting that for a very long time. So here, when you look at these packages, many of the Java developers, they should feel at home when they see these packages because they use that for developing their apps, right? Now, as a Java developer, if you search for Azure and Java, any search engine, this is where you land, right? So this is our dev center where you can get started. Based on developer feedback, we continue to revise. Actually, we are working on another page as well, which will come out very soon. So we continue to revise so that you have the up-to-date information to get started on Azure. Let me dive a little deep into the how you build the apps on Azure, right? So when you build Java apps can run and interact with Azure services and offerings. So let me introduce a few here, and then I will double click into some level of details, and I'll show you a demo as well, right? So you can deploy your apps to Kubernetes or Swarm clusters on Azure Container Service, Linux or Windows virtual machine scale sets, web apps on Linux. I've just listed a few here. There are many more possibilities. Now, we also have ready-to-go quick start templates for you. So you can use Java 8, Tomcat, Oracle WebLogic Server, and many more out there. Your app can interact with databases like SQL database, MySQL, PostgreSQL, ClearDB, DocumentDB, Redis. It's your choice. There are many data services out there in Azure. And you can also use your app to use reliable messaging using Azure Service Bus. When it comes to app secrets, particularly the client-side credentials or the app-side credentials, you can manage those secrets in Azure Key Vault. To authenticate and authorize users to your apps, you can use Azure Active Directory. To build data intelligence and analytics into your apps, you can use HD Insight. For continuous deployment and continuous deployment on Azure, you can use Jenkins. There are Jenkins plugins available. There are Maven plugins available. You can use all of them to do continuous deployment on Azure. Now, as you build and scale apps, you can use them. You can scale them by using Kubernetes clusters, virtual machine scale sets, or load balancing like Traffic Manager, Load Balancer, or App Gateway. You can also scale using web apps on Linux, where you can specify the number of instances and it will scale up on demand for you, right? So let's click on a little more detail here, right? Now, one of the important thing is, as a Java developer, you're probably using IntelliJ and Eclipse, right? So we make it easy to use the tools that you know and love, so you can just use it, right? You don't have to worry about any other tools. So you can use Eclipse and IntelliJ. As you start interacting with Azure services, you can see it on the left. I've listed a few libraries for you. So there's storage, SQL database, Redis, DocumentDB, Service Bus. There are many more. So I've listed a few here. And you can also see on the right, you can manage Azure resources using Java libraries. So a few scenarios are listed here, like you can manage virtual machine, storage accounts, network, SQL databases, many more, right? So I've listed a few to just give you evidence here. You can use MapReduce on HD Insight. You can use Docker containers. You can use Cloud Foundry on Azure. So there are many possibilities right here, right? So what I'm going to do now is, now that I've introduced Java on Azure, I'll show you a demo. I'll start with a Spring Boot app, right? Just a plain old Spring Boot app out there. I'll start with the Spring Boot app, and I will start deploying them into containers on Azure, containers on VM, containers on Linux, containers on Azure App Service. I'll show a couple. There are more possibilities, but I'll show a couple for you today. Okay. The important thing here is when I start deploying them, you will see that it only takes seconds to deploy, not really minutes. Okay. I'm going to show you a demo using IntelliJ. Now, the same thing is possible using Eclipse as well, right? So let me show you that demo. So I'm going to start from using a Spring Boot app. Using a Spring Boot, I'm going to deploy to containers on Azure. Here, it's a simple Spring Boot app. You can get it from Spring Guides. And what it does is it displays a web page, and it also prints out the environment properties. So you will see the properties coming from the target. So what I go to do here is I open the project, and you can compile. I've already compiled it here. All you do is Maven package, and it'll compile for you. And I go here and I right click and I choose publish as Docker. And here I've already created a host. Now you can create a host if you want. All you have to do is fill up this. I've already created one, so I'm going to use it. I say next, and I specify the internal port. So internal port is 8080. So then I say publish. It's finished and it's publishing at this point, right? And it's done. It's refreshing the contents, the IDE. So I just have to wait for that to disappear. And then I can just click on this, right? And there you go. The app is now running on Azure. It says hello Docker world, and it prints out the environment variables. I'll show you another option, right? So this is in a Docker host. The next one, I will publish the same app to a Linux container running on Azure Web App Service, right? App Service. So what I do here is I go here and I compile it, right? And I compile and I Dockerize it, and I just push the image to Azure Container Registry. There you go. It starts now. So it's compiling right now, and compile, and it will create the jar file, Docker boot jar file. Spring Boot jar file, and then it will start Dockerizing it. So now it's creating a Docker image at this point, yeah, and now it's pushing it to the registry. So it's going into the Azure Container Registry, which you can use it as a private registry for your company to put all your container images. So that is successful, right? So then what I do is I go into the Azure portal and say that I want a new web app on Linux. All right. So I create one. Okay, create. I have to enter a name. So GS Spring Boot 28. Create new GS Spring Boot 28. I already have a plan. You can use your plan as well. And then provide the private registry info here, right? So for this, I already have the data here. So I'm going to take it from here. So here's the data. Command C, come back here, put it here, and then say my image. And I want to take the latest image. And the server is your server registry server address is this one, and my username is demo, and I need my password here. So I have the password ready from here. So I put the password, then I say OK. So the deployment, I have to start the deployment by saying create. So deployment is getting started. It will take a few seconds for the deployment. So deployment is currently in progress, right? It's currently in progress. So if I go into all resources, okay, deployment succeeded. So I go here and I search for my my app. So it's 28 is what I just created. So I go into 28. I have to provide the port mapping alone, which was not part of the deployment there. So I go into app settings. So what I've done here is set the port as 8080, and I've saved it. Now I can go to the overview page right here. So in the overview page, you can see that it's ready to go. All I have to do is to click, and then I can see the website up and running. So when I click here, there you go. It's up and running. It's up and running on a Linux container, running on Azure App Service, where it says hello Docker world. The Spring Boot app is saying hello Docker world, and it's reading all the environment variables and spitting it out in the page right here. That's it. It's as simple as that to run a Spring Boot on Linux containers in Azure App Service. Okay, so let me go back to the PowerPoint now. As a Java developer, you go from Java to command line to portal. So as you go to the command line, we have an awesome CLI for you, which is pretty natural and easy for anybody who's using a bash shell or a C shell, G shell. So it covers the breadth of Azure, so you can manage, you can create, you can log in, all of those from the command line. Here is a little view of that. You can see that by just typing Azure CLI 2, and you will see all of these come to you. We have plenty of Java samples for you to get started on Azure. Right? Now, if you look at the screen here, if you go to azure.com, there is a separate site for samples. There are about 106 ready to run samples for you. All of them, all you have to do is clone the repo and then just start running. It'll run, right? So this is a great way for you to get started. And for more resources, you can go to the Dev Center, you can listen to our announcements, or just send a mail. The best way to reach us is just say java@microsoft.com, right? I've also given you the CLI link here. You can install CLI and provide that team, CLI team with feedback. They have some amazing command line for you. So thank you for listening. Get started on using Java. Java is a very popular language on Azure.